Mohun. I'm going to talk to you today about bins. Very hot on the agenda if you read the Daily Express. But really, I'm going to give you a brief introduction and basically tell you how we're going to effectively collect waste from 1.2 million households in the North East. We'll do that with planning and preparation using a high density routing application called Smart. I talk about routing applications. The difference between high density and low density is basically the number of customers. Everyone's probably got a sat nav, everyone uses Google Maps. How do I get from one place to another? That's a low density routing algorithm. A high density routing algorithm can take up to thousands and thousands of properties and say what is the best sequence to go around and service these properties. I'm going to tell you about some efficiencies and results, and I'm going to conclude with hopefully some cost savings. Put those pictures up because waste management actually changes over time. First of all, the cart horse, people going out collecting waste. In the 60s, 70s, 80s, you had guys going out picking up black bags, throwing them into the back of trucks. Obviously lots of health and safety issues here, which led to, in the 90s, people introducing wheel bins. A lot safer method. Now, the planning and preparation behind all of these services in the past was done probably with a stopwatch and some time and motion data, using A to Z's, using balls of string to work out the length that people were walking and comparing those lengths of strings. I've seen some weird and wonderful ways of managing this type of problem. On my first day of work from a graduate university, my first job in the waste management section, I was given an A to Z map and a lot of coloured crayons and was told to start colouring in. And after using GIS for a number of years, I thought, there's obviously better ways of doing this. Okay, what we're trying to do, we're trying to increase efficiencies within collection services by working with each of the region's councils to introduce new service routes. And that's going to improve operational performance, quantify the investment of vehicles, so we're going to know you need 12 vehicles for these properties. You're going to need 6 vehicles based out of this depot to service these particular properties. We're going to produce financial savings in fuel and depot costs, and overall we're going to reduce the carbon footprint of this service. We're talking about vehicles which cost over £100,000 each. Okay, they have a lifespan of around about 10 years. In terms of efficiency, some of the vehicles probably get around 4 miles to the gallon. A lot of them actually get around about 10, but they're not the most efficient vehicles. Therefore, the cost to run these vehicles is very high. Therefore, a saving of 5, 10, 15% on the operational cost of these vehicles is very, very significant to the frontline service. Okay, so what have I done in the past 12 months? We completed a tender process. We had a look to see what types of systems were out there. And I found a product called RouteSmart, which is an extension to ArcGIS. I've managed all the project timescales and the immediate priorities. I put together a work stream approach to the project, set up 6 work streams, starting in Northumberland and Durham, and that's currently into the 4th/5th area of the work stream. We also have looked at things like cross-boundary working and sharing resources over boundaries, looking at the number of depots that people haven't seen. Actually, do you need to run 7 depots? What would happen if you had 4 depots? What would the impact be? So I began the training and mentoring in this project on the 18th of January 2010 in Durham. Okay, RouteSmart, what is it? It's obviously a GIS location-based application. It allows users to model collection-based services with no customer limitation. So we could, in effect, put in every single property in the UK into the system and press a few buttons, and it could really work out how many vehicles you need to pick up all of the bins in the UK. It's got no customer limitation. It also balances the workloads between crews and vehicles, obviously reduces time and mileage. It's all about efficiency. It gives you how many vehicles you need, how much time each vehicle will be working. You can model anything, there's no boundaries involved, so depending on what you put in terms of number of properties, etc., determines what you get out. And you can save these off as things called solutions. So you can say, okay, what if I have 12 vehicles that work 5 hours a day? What if I have 10 vehicles that work 8 hours a day? how many miles is each one of these vehicles going to be doing, and how much will that service cost. It brings together maps, it brings together road networks, such as we use the Ordnance Survey ITN data, but you could use TeleAtlas or any other network-based data, and also customer information. Local authorities control their LLPGs, we use that data. Okay, very simple example of RouteSmart. It's obviously map-based. I've taken out all the buttons, there's up to 60 tools. You can pretty much do anything you want with a vehicle with this software. It's been developed over the past 25 years. It's an extension to ArcGIS. Layers of information. GIS is all about layers and sandwiching layers on top of each other. Okay, so there's the basic map. We've got the ITN data represented by a line in the middle of the road. This contains all your road routing information, such as no turns, such as one-ways. All this data is maintained by the Ordnance Survey. Our customers, dots on the map. Obviously there's a database behind each one of these dots. It could include things like assisted lift collections, where the bin man actually need to go in and pull a bin out. These dots don't need to represent properties, it could represent anything. So this software can be used for other services. They could represent litter bins or gullies, or a street rather than a particular property. So you could model gritting services or street sweeping or anything like that. There's a link between each property and the road. So if I select that road, it tells me that there's 20 properties associated with that road. It takes 4 minutes and 20 seconds to service that street, and it produces on average 0.38 tonnes of waste. And it also contains various other network tools. These are built into the system because obviously there's different characteristics depending on the types of vehicle. A bin wagon doesn't go down the front street if there's a back lane. The bins are out down the back lane. So you tell the system that for that particular journey, you need to send the vehicle from that front street down to that back lane, and the system will take that into consideration. So the user has a lot of control over the output. Moving forward, some of the outputs, travel paths. This is this is a sequence travel path telling you the most efficient way to service the area, and obviously there's textual based reports linked to this. But obviously these streets or the main roads being used by all of the vehicles, and then the vehicles break off and service their other areas. So that's a sequence travel path. And also summaries. So we're looking for a balance. So we know that each individual day or each individual route has the same amount of work. So the guys actually doing the work are happy. There's none of this, he finishes earlier than me, or why am I working late when he finishes at 1 o'clock? It's all balanced. Okay. So what have I done? I've set up an infrastructure based around the RouteSmart licenses, and I took into consideration this the cloud-based approach that a few other people have mentioned today. So I've actually hosted all of the data in a data centre in Derby. I took the control of the data outside of the local authority, because there was a number of reasons for that, but one of them was, I want to host the data, or, why doesn't Newcastle host this, or Durham host this, or whoever. I just took it out completely and said, okay, we're going to host it outside. I'm going to give it access via a web link, so it can be accessed anywhere in the world at any time. All you need is a username and password, and you can have a full experience of the application. That would be the same as, loading the full system on a PC. On a server, it's also 4 times faster than a standard PC. So if you're running something like 125,000 properties, it can take probably around 10 minutes to get the result. So that's running various routing algorithms. It's all managed by Integrated Skills Limited, who won the tender, so that's the passwords and the load balancing and everything else. And they also set up a support site. Integrated Skills have obviously won other tenders within the country, such as Leeds, such as Glasgow, and there's quite a small community now of around about 160 RouteSmart users who've got access to this site, and they can share ideas or look at certain problems. And I think that's quite a good idea, because I think this type of software is going to become more important in the future when people are looking at efficiencies. Very quickly, training and preparation. workstream approach, 5-day training course, selected persons to go onto the training. That's followed by a 10-day mentoring course with a consultant. At the end of that, you've got your first draft routes. That's all it takes. Then the persons who have done the training have got the skills to take that forward and come up with other scenarios. But after the 10 days, we're really looking at they're your first draft routes that you can go and you can talk to your crews about and get their input and then make changes and everything else. We also look at things like determining the back lane collections, looking at the average bin weights to basically get the right data into the system. Very important that you get the right data into the system. If you put poor data into the system, you get poor data out. It's not going to work on the ground. It's a frontline service. You've got to really invest the time in getting that data right. One of the reasons why it does work is because we've invested in that data, using vehicle tracking data. I also, within the project, have fitted something like 270 vehicle tracking units to each individual vehicle. We're trying to work out really how long it takes to empty a bin. Okay. It can take a different time depending on the type of property because you've got different travelling distances between bins. So it's not just a case of saying vehicle 1 has got 1,200 properties, vehicle 2 should have 1,200 properties. If vehicle 1's working in a back lane area where you've got lots of bins and it's very dense, they could empty up to 2,000 bins a day. Vehicle 1's working in detached areas, they might only be able to empty 800 bins a day. So it's not just a case of numbers. We've processed around about 500 million records, and this is done, these represent 5-second intervals coming from the vehicles. With proximity, we assign the road and then work out how many properties are assigned to that road. Obviously just divide the time and it works out how much service time is required for that area. Okay, results. Map-based results, we've done things like drive time analysis. This is Durham County Council. Pardon me. It's now a unitary authority. What I mean by that is it used to be, I think, 4 or 5 different authorities, and now it's one. So they want to say, okay, we've got all these depots. Using drive time analysis, do we actually need these 3 depots here? Why don't we just have one? Because it takes the same amount of time to drive between 2 or 3 of the depots. So if we take that depot out of the equation, what impact does that have on our vehicles? These are some of the results in terms of days of collection, and we've tried, these are all balanced, and obviously you try to neaten things up and remove boundaries between customers. North Durham using 7 vehicles, I'll quickly run through these. East Durham using 5 vehicles. Bad and Stateford, that's probably 86,000 properties or customers displayed on that map. We need 12 vehicles for that. The software works just as well in rural areas as in urban areas. So this is Ponteland down here, this is Morpeth, and these are all the properties which are serviced by the rural vehicles in rural Northumberland. Ponteland down at an individual route basis, so each one of these actually represents a day's work for the crew. And Wall's End. Case in fact, this route here probably looks more work than these 2. These are actually, there's a lot of flats and a lot of bins in these areas. If you actually look at the data behind it, these are all balanced accordingly. Okay, North Tyneside on Hull. When